We tend to, especially as Christians, what happens is we go into a place, we get turned down, right? Like in an application, we turn in our application, they don't return our call. And so what we do, because we know God is on our side, we got that word of encouragement, we go to another job looking for the same position, bringing the same mind frame, the same words, answering the same way those questions that they ask us. And we get the same results. We go to our leaders in the church and we go to our parents and say, hey, it didn't work out. This is after you've already asked them to pray for you and make a way. The one thing that people have to understand is when you're praying for someone, encourage them to do better. How do I do that? So you have to instruct them. Redo your resume. Just start blank. Don't try to bring over that old information, those old words. I want you to tell me about yourself. When you're praying or before you pray for someone or even after you pray for someone, sit them down, especially in the case of if they're going for a job. Ask them a few questions. As leaders, we need to do this. We need to have a more proactive role within our members, within our sheep, because we don't want to put them in a situation where they're going to be devoured by wolves, and then they're going to have their feelings shattered and their emotions are going to be out of whack. Then there's imbalances within their faith, and then they no longer believe in God. Now they think that they have to dress provocatively in order to get a job. Now they believe they have to know someone on the inside, and what that leads to is them selling themselves into fornication in order to get a position. Then they're left up to these men and women who promise them the world, but they can't deliver the world because opportunities are given by God. And it doesn't matter whether you trust in God or you don't. Chance happens and God gives us those opportunities in order for us to seize it. We could look at any business, we could look at any area, any opportunity, any job, any relationship. And we want the good of everything, but we never consider the bad that person had to go through. Is not the fact that God just packages every opportunity with bad, is that you have to realize what you have, and in order to do that, you have to dig deeper within yourself in order to overcome the obstacles that are in your life. And then soon enough, you realize that those people that told you those things, that you can't do it, you'll never make it, that spouse that is doing things that have nothing to do with what their oath tells them they should do, those parents that says that you're not going to amount to anything great because you were raised in my house, and look at your brothers and sisters, they're no different than you, and you have to follow suit with what they're going to be doing. And what you learn is the same thing that David had to learn. He had to learn to stop listening for people's encouragement and start to do things himself. I know everybody wants that word, right? That uplifting, that encouraging word. But the truth is, words are not good enough. Whatever God gives you, no one can take it away. And that's why we need to learn to encourage ourselves. The other point that I want to say about Jonathan and David is this. People may encourage you, and this lends to the point of this whole message, this whole series. People may encourage you, but they can't go with you. What do I mean? They may encourage you and say, you're going to get that job, right? That's your mom, of course. That's your dad, of course. That's your leader, of course. But the whole idea is they have to see something great in you first. Nobody wants to set you up for a great fall. But the whole idea is, although they give you the words of encouragement, they can't go with you. to fulfill the steps. And I know you feel as though you have the greatest connection and greatest bond to them. And just before you got into that job, you called them up and say, listen, I need you to pray again for me. And I need you to just give me another word of encouragement. But they cannot go with you. Who does? If they cannot go with you, who goes with you? That's God. God goes with you. But how does God go with you? We learn about with Saul that although a spirit of evil was given to him from God because of his disobedience, when he pursued David in Naioth, when David was with Samuel, he had to go with himself because he said every person that they sent, they prophesied, right? A spirit was given to them from God and they prophesied. And so they weren't able to carry out what Saul wanted. And what Saul wanted was for David to be brought to him so that he could slay him, kill him. So eventually he said, just like what I'm trying to tell you guys now, if you're going to do something right, you got to do it yourself. Because you get tired of hearing everyone's success stories. You have to create your own success story. And in order to do that, you have to fulfill those steps. You may be that person within your life that encourages everyone, but you cannot see where to take the first step for yourself. You could prophesy for every single person. You're going to get a house. You're going to get a job. You're going to start a business. But you cannot see what tomorrow holds for yourself. And the reason being, you didn't discover who you are in God and where you stand with God, which is why you haven't fulfilled any steps yet. Just because you're making steps every single day and helping people all throughout the day, it doesn't mean you're taking the right steps in order to succeed in life. There's a difference. That's why God teaches us that you could be living and yet dead. Why? Because you're walking around, you're saying, you're speaking, you're eating, you're breathing. But that doesn't mean you're doing the things that amounts to life, that gives life, that grants you opportunities to help those who are in your same predicament. So what happens is Saul goes to Naioth and a spirit is on him, not in him, on him. A lot of people get in love with people because they see the spirit. Wow, a spirit is on you. It's so powerful. That could have been an event. They maybe needed it. A lot of people said, wow, I saw them speaking in tongues and I heard them sing in the choir and they sounded so beautiful. And it brought tears to my eyes. And you want to marry this person now. A spirit, you have to learn to differentiate a spirit being on someone and a spirit being in someone. But that's a whole nother story. But the whole idea is when he got there, the Spirit of God was on him that he prophesied as well. What I'm getting to is that when you take the right steps and finally carry out things for yourself and not for someone else, not prophesying for someone else, not encouraging someone else, but looking in the mirror and encouraging yourself. I know it's difficult, but when you're able to do that, guess what? Who knows you better than you? And you know, a lot of people, as they help you, they also want that same fame. They want that accreditation, right? They want the reward, the bragging rights. So let's just call it that. But when you learn to encourage yourself, you learn that all praise, all honor, and glory is to God. Listen to me, this is true. You may have someone, whether they're in the faith or not, that helps you greatly, that gives you that inspiring word. You go in, you get that job, you get that business, you're granted that opportunity, and now you're successful. Although your speech and your story has to say, well, I thank God for what he did. Those people say every time in their heart, and they can say, let me say that, they can say within their heart, God what? God didn't tell them anything. It was me. Right? And then sin happens to that individual, but that's not in your hands. I'm just saying this to show you, when you learn to encourage yourself and you know that all good and perfect things come from above, come from God, then when you finally get that blessing, you don't have to share that blessing with anyone, but you can share that testimony. And it's no longer this person, that person, or whatever. When David finally got around to thanking God, it's him and God. God did this. God brought me out. He could have written psalms. He could have he could have praised. He could have worshiped. He could have given those testimonies. He could have instructed his son and his other children about serving God. Really serving God, not faking it, not eye service, not as men pleasers, but really serving God, and how God will make a way where seems to be no way. His children were so empowered, I can imagine, by the words, by just the life of their father, David. But the whole idea is that you have to become that inspiring individual. You have to become that motivational speaker. Opportunities will continue to be present to you, and you will continue to go through those roller coaster rides of emotions until you realize your potential and where you stand with God.